Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Steven Melendez, and I'm going to be bringing you the latest and greatest in soccer news from around the world. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to your favorite soccer podcast, and welcome to the first show of the new year. 2020 is behind us, guys. That really, I can't say any bad words on here, but that really bad year is behind us, and we are now looking at a fresh start here in 2021. And on that note, we're going to be going fresh, talking about all the leagues that they already have some games going on. Let's see how they're starting off their new year. Let's see if they're getting off to a good note to start the new year. We obviously got some juicy transfer news to get into. But before I'm already spoiling the show to you guys. I hope you guys, before I even get into all of that, before we start talking about our favorite sport, I first want to say I hope you guys all had a happy new year, spent time with family. Obviously not too many people because, we obviously got to keep our distances, but still I hope you guys all had a great time. So now that that's out of the way, let's talk about what we're going to be discussing in today's show, starting with some Premier League talk. As always, you guys know I cover the Premier League heavily, and that's always what I like to start my show off with, especially since they already have some games that have been going on. We're going to be talking about that in the first part of the show. Second part, I'm going to give my love to the other top 5 leagues. We'll get into Bundesliga, Serie A, La Liga, and of course Ligue 1. See what's going on there. Some have started already some games, some haven't. So we'll just talk a little bit about what's going on there. And then the third part of the show, we're going to be doing that transfer news. I'm just going to be going over some of the recent transfer news that's been going on, see what juicy stuff is happening at the moment. Because we are in that transfer window, and there's going to be a lot of movement happening soon. And then the last part of the show, I'm not going to be doing my usual top 10 current, certain international country players. I want to mix it up. I'm going to do top 10 Premier League teams this season. And I know when you think about that, you're like, that's super easy. You just go through the standings. You go 1 through 10. But this is going to be, and yes, a good portion of those top 10 teams are going to be on my list. However, I'm going to talk about, which teams it's going to be my list. The ones I feel are the top 10 teams this season. And obviously, I'm going to be getting into the players who has made this great season for them possible, as we're now halfway through the year. So, with that out of the way, let's get right into it, starting with the Premier League talk. And right off the bat, there's already some interesting games going on to start the new year. Technically only one. What am I talking about? Technically only one. Yes, we have some interesting games that have happened, some incredible upsets that have already taken place, and some teams that have gone into this new year not the way they ended it. First of all, we got to talk about Everton losing to West Ham 1-0. And, new year, January 1st, they lose 1-0 to West Ham, losing on a late winner from Thomas Soucek. Not what Everton were hoping entering this new year, especially with them finishing 2020 on such a high note. This is their first loss in about, I think it was 4 or 5 games, and it's definitely not the way they wanted to start things off, because they were certainly pushing for one of those top spots in the league, but that pushed them down to 7 with a lot of the top teams around them winning this past week. One of those being Manchester United, who continues to be on a hot streak and prove that those early flukes were just that, a fluke. They're playing at the top of their game, and they did that against one of the top teams in the Premier League. Spoiler alert right there. They beat Aston Villa 2-1. They started off the scoring with a 40th minute goal from Anthony Martial, and then Bertrand Traore ties it up in the 58th minute, and then right after that, in the 61st minute, Bruno Fernandes puts in a penalty, which is pretty much the way Manchester United has been getting their goals. I know for a fact they are the leading penalty getters or takers in all of the Premier League, and by a good margin. I don't know what it is. I mean, they do have some shaky players. Some you got Mason Greenwood, obviously Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford. And in this game, I mean, they had a lot of their good players. I mean, obviously they started off the new year with their full complementary of players. De Gea between the sticks, Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw on the side, on the fullback positions. They had Harry Maguire. No Victor Lindelof, I believe. Was he on the bench? He wasn't even on the bench. He might be injured. I'm not 100% sure on that. Obviously, Bruno Fernandes in between, in the middle of the pitch. You had McTominay and Fred. They've been going with that midfield duo a lot lately. And then obviously Marcus Rashford, Anthony Martial, and Pogba playing a little bit up top. And they've been going with that lately. And obviously, they're trying to get as much as they can out of him with, all those transfer rumors being talked about with him, possibly on the way out. And it's not a bad move. I mean, he's obviously still a great talent in this league. He's going to be going to, in the world, really, and he's going to be going to another big club, so why not use him while you have him? But Aston Villa also went with their players. I mean, like I said, Traore, who scored the goal, played David Luiz. My bad, Douglas Luiz. David Luiz, what am I talking about? Ollie Watkins, Jack Grealish, El Ghazi, McGinn. They had all their top players. They just couldn't solve Manchester United enough to be able to get, at least a draw. They did get 15 shots, but 5 of those were on target. Manchester United were just as effective, 19 shots, 9 on target. So they were, their offense clicking on all cylinders like it has been for most of the season, but it feels like that defense is finally starting to at least, help out the offense enough for them to pick up all these points. And that makes it 4 wins in their last 5 games with a draw mixed in there as well. I mean, great results from them. And with Liverpool, which we're going to talk about very soon, getting a terrible loss this week, they're now tied in points with a game in hand. So you can easily see Manchester United in the top of the table. I mean, honestly, this has been such a weird season where so many teams are in the running. I mean, you look from 1 to 7 in the Premier League, they're only separated by 4 points. That is so tight. And you take it even a notch further, from 1 to 10, they're separated by 7 points. I mean, that's obviously a bit more, of a gap than, where it's not really that close, but still, 7 points from 1 to 10, that's West Ham 7 points away from Liverpool. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, no team has really, separated themselves. I mean, Liverpool have had, struggles of late. I mean, 2 draws and a loss in their last 3 games. In total, they have 6 draws and 2 losses. It has not looked like the dominant team that we are used to seeing in the Premier League, even though, beginning of the season, they kind of took a little bit to get used to, to get their rhythm. Then they got it. Obviously, then all the injuries started piling on, and obviously that's clearly hurting them now, but it's just a 1-0 loss to Southampton. I mean, and it's not a bad loss because, I mean, Southampton are one of the better teams in the Premier League this season. And they did get a goal from their top striker, Danny Ings, early on in this game, too, in the 2nd minute. Unfortunately, Southampton didn't really get anything other than that, but it kind of seems like the same thing over and over again with Liverpool. They get a lot of opportunities. They had 17 shots in this entire game. However, they're not being effective with those opportunities. Only 1 of those 17 shots were on target. Just an absolutely terrible display of shooting from Liverpool, and that's going to give them 0 points for this game. I mean, you go 1 for 17 on your shots, you're not expected to win the game. And even with 67% possession, 80% pass accuracy to 66% for Southampton, Southampton were just more accurate. They were more effective. They took better advantages of their opportunities than Liverpool, and that just seems to be the issue over the last couple games for Liverpool. They're just not taking advantage of it, and it's making them drop points, and it's making this Premier League race tighter than I can honestly even remember, because halfway through the season, usually you get, you know who's going to be at the top of the table. Right now, you have absolutely no idea. A team like Manchester City, who, yes, I know they had some games in hand, but they were, 10th, 11th for a while. Obviously now winning 3 games in a row and then 2 draws before that, that changes things. And those wins were against good teams. I mean, they beat Chelsea recently. That was literally their last game. And they dominated Chelsea. I mean, they were up 3-0 at one point and just they were just absolutely dominant. But the thing is, Chelsea just looks like an absolute train wreck at the moment. So really, it feels like anybody can beat Chelsea. But, they beat Newcastle 2-0, which was, you're expecting them to do that. And a 1-0 defeat over Southampton, something that Liverpool couldn't do just now. And then before that, they had draws against West Brom and a draw against Manchester United. So at that point, you're you're thinking Manchester City just don't have it this year. It's probably not going to be their year. But now they're only 4 points away from Liverpool with 2 games in hand. That means they can be at the top of the table by next week, or 2 weeks from now, I guess. It's just, it really is mind-boggling. I've never seen a season quite like this, and honestly, it's all for the better for us fans, man. I mean, because it's just high competition, night in, night out. I mean, week in, week out, but it's more like, I mean, I guess you kind of look at both ways. I mean, at the same time, that's like you're not getting any dominant play, so you're not seeing, because really, no team, in my opinion, has really risen up above the ranks. I mean, obviously, when you look at the table, but there's been stretches like Everton looked like a beast early on in the season. Then Tottenham started to pull away and started looking like an absolute machine. Then they pulled back, and then Liverpool started taking over. And then you kind of had Leicester. I mean, really, the only team that has been consistently like at the top of the table has been Leicester City. I mean, I don't think they've left the top 3 since early on in the season. I really can't remember them being, I don't think they've been outside the top 3. I mean, I might be wrong, with kind of like the way the points go and stuff, but they're really the only team that has been consistently up there, because even Liverpool were outside the top 3 early on in the season, obviously. But then, of course, they got their groove back a little bit. But, man, I mean, this is shaping up to be a very, very tight race at the top of the table. I mean, 1 through 10. I mean, you can even go a little further down, and you look at Arsenal. They're now winning. They've won 3 games in a row now. They are creeping up little by little with wins against West Brom, Brighton, and Chelsea. And before that, I mean, all these fans were probably thinking, we're in a relegation battle, which they absolutely were. Before these 3 wins, that's 9 points. They were at, 14 points. That is, at the moment, if they would have still been there, they would be 3 points away from relegation. Obviously, of course, they play games and they've won those games. It's just, this is the best Arsenal has looked all season. I mean, aside from, I guess, that opening win against Fulham, that 3-0 win. But even I had my reservations about that win. I mean, it was a great start, but it was still just a win against Fulham. So I still needed to see more. And obviously, we saw the kind of team Arsenal really was. But a 4-0 win against West Brom, it kind of gives you that same feeling from what they had early on in the season. And when you follow that up, or I guess when you back that up with wins against Chelsea before that and against Brighton, which Brighton, that's not really that crazy of a win, but against Chelsea, I mean, even though they're kind of like the new Arsenal right now at the moment, that's still a very solid win, especially when they were coming off losses to Everton, a draw to Southampton with multiple red card games, a 4-1 loss to Man City in the EFL Cup. It just was not looking good whatsoever for Arsenal. So just to be able to turn their season around and finally give their fans some hope, obviously is a great sign for that big club. But then you look at some of these other teams. I mean, obviously West Ham, I just talked about as they defeated, they just defeated Everton. I mean, that's a huge win. They were taking on the team that was probably, one of the hotter teams in the Premier League, and they were coming off 3 draws and a loss. And for them to win that game, it's just big news for them because that keeps them in that race. They're tied with Aston Villa and Chelsea, and obviously they need to keep it up because teams like Arsenal are right behind them. But I mean, yes, they're mid-table at the moment, but that really means nothing this season. Because usually at this point of the season, if you're mid-table, if you're 9 through 10, if you're even like 7 through 12, if you're in that range at this point of the season, usually you have absolutely no chance to get the title. This year, it's entirely possible. I mean, there's, in my opinion, there's no way that's happening. I mean, especially Arsenal with 23 points, 10 points behind Liverpool. There's absolutely no way that's happening. I mean, they'd have to go undefeated and not even get a draw. They can't drop points the rest of the year for them to have a chance at that. So it's not happening. But the fact that it's even remotely possible at this point of the season just goes to show how crazy of a year this was. It just goes hand in hand with this weird 2020 year that we've been in, that we've had to endure. But honestly, it's all for the better because it makes every single game that much more important. And all these teams are going to be getting up for it. And you look at some of the other games. I mean, Tottenham 3-0 Leeds United, and looking like the Tottenham that we saw early on in this season, taking on a Leeds United team that, in my opinion, are one of the better teams in the Premier League. I feel like they are very underrated. Don't have a whole lot of budget, and they make do with what they have, and they have certainly done their due diligence in this Premier League. They're at the moment they're 12th, coming off 3 wins in their last 5 games. They do have 2 losses mixed in there, so they have dropped a few points. But they have one of the better offenses in the league. Their defense certainly could use some work, but we knew that their offense was one of the top offenses. With guys like Bamford. Who else did they have? I remember I talked about them early on in the season. Let me just go look at their lineup at them for a second. You got Bamford. I like them getting Harrison. Rodrigo coming in. Obviously, he made some mistakes early on in the season, but he's certainly a great pickup for them. I like Helder Costa as well, even though he was on the bench their past game. But certainly their defense needs to get a whole lot better for them to get a few more good results, because a 3-0 loss at Tottenham, no one's gonna bat an eye on a 3-0 loss at Tottenham, even though they haven't been playing their best soccer as of late, and especially when you got guys like Harry Kane getting a penalty, Song scoring just before half, and then Toby Alderweireld getting on the scoreboard in the 50th minute. No one's really gonna blame Leeds United for dropping points in this game. But then you look at the rest of their schedule. We're not going to go all the way down the schedule, but at least over the next couple games, they take on Brighton. Their next game is actually the 3rd round of the FA Cup, so obviously they're going to want to play well there. And they play Crawley Town. I'm sure a team from either the Championship or a division underneath that. They should be winning that game. They do have Southampton. That's tough, but then they got Newcastle right after that. So their next 3 games, 2 very winnable ones. One that can certainly be very, very exciting to watch. So this is going to be a really telling part of the schedule for them, because after that, they got Leeds United, Leicester City and Everton, Crystal Palace, Arsenal, Wolves, Aston Villa. Those are some tough teams to take on. Crystal Palace mixed in there. They're no slouches. They can certainly score goals in bunches. But you look at that schedule, they need to take advantage of these next 3 games coming up, even though Southampton, absolutely no slouch. They can beat any team in the Premier League, in my opinion. Leeds United need to try to get a few points here and there in these next 3 games, because it's going to be good. It's going to be tough after that. Next, we had a very exciting game between Brighton and Wolves. The scoring got started off early with Brighton getting a goal from Aaron Connolly, and then Roman Saiz scoring pretty much right after with an equalizer in the 19th minute. The Wolves get they score an own goal, but they get an own goal in the 34th minute by Dan Burn of Brighton to take a 2-1 lead. Just so you're thinking they go into halftime up 2-1, and not even that, they go into halftime up 3-1 with a penalty from Ruben Neves, and you're thinking, Wolves are going to take care of this. I mean, obviously they haven't been good this season so far, but they're not going to drop these points against Brighton. Think again. They give up a terrible penalty right in, literally the first minute of the second half, and that pretty much spelled the game because 70th minute Lewis Dunk scored to equalize the game, and that was all she wrote. More dropped points for Wolves, and that has just been pretty much the story for them this season. I mean, you look at their last couple games, 1-0 loss to Man United, which nobody's going to really say anything about that, but 1-1 draw to Tottenham. They could have won that game. 2-1 loss to Burnley. They beat Chelsea, but again, everyone's beating Chelsea right now. 1-0 loss to Aston Villa. 4-0 loss to Wolves. They did beat Arsenal when they were kind of like still in their little slump there, but it's just a lot of dropped points for Wolves. Games that they could have easily won had they just been more focused, honestly. And that has really been hurting the Wolves, and that is why they are mid to bottom table. They're 13th right now. I did not expect that coming into the season. I expected Wolves to be in that running for a Europa League spot, absolutely. And they are not there. But still, like I said, this season, they're 22 points. They have 22 points right now in 13th place. Only 7 points behind number 5 Manchester City. Not to say that, they're going to get that Europa League spot. It's just the fact that it's still actually possible for them if they just get on a good run of play. But dropping points against teams like Brighton are not going to get you there. You got Leicester City taking care of business against Newcastle with a 2-1 win. I already talked about that Man City win over Chelsea 3-1. Chelsea looking like an absolute mess, to be honest. I mean, they got Timo Werner on the starting, but I mean, honestly, I don't really know why. He's been playing so terribly. I mean, early on in the season, yeah, he had some good moments, but he wasn't consistently good moments, and he has just been an absolute flop for Chelsea. I mean, just to say plain and simple. Same thing for Kai Havertz. He didn't even start. He's been coming off the bench. I mean, honestly, Olivier Vernon has been Olivier Vernon. Oh my God, I'm thinking the other football. But Olivier Giroud, at least I got the first name right, but jeez. Olivier Giroud has been their best player this season, hands down. And they didn't even start him. And Frank Lampard's doing that because he probably wants to make sure that his top signings get minutes, gets into a groove, which, I mean, I like those signings of Silva, Chilwell. I mean, they've certainly shored up that back line, but it's just Timo Werner, those top guys. Even Ziyech hasn't really been, consistent at all for Chelsea. I do like what Pulisic gives. Obviously, he's working his way back from injury. Mason Mount as well, he's solid, but it's just, man, those guys that were brought in that you were expecting Chelsea to be one of the top teams in the Premier League this season have not shown up at all. And that's certainly hurt them in the long run, and that's why they are just dropping points left and right. And at the moment, I believe they're in 9th place in the Premier League with 3 losses in their last 5 games. And, I mean, they just they don't look good. I mean, and it's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, it really is insane that just 2 weeks ago, I was talking about them in the top 5, one of the top teams in the Premier League. They have one of the better defenses, or one of the better offenses, I should say. And now they're down to 9th. That's how tight everything is. You cannot, miss a beat in the top, in the top of this table. And if you do, that's exactly what's going to happen to you. But anyways, that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Make sure you guys stick around, because when I come back, we're going to be talking about all the other top 5 leagues right after this.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football, from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? we've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back, everyone. If you missed the last segment, we talked about the Premier League as they start off the 2021 year with some exciting matches. And now we're going to be doing the exact same for the other top 5 leagues. We're going to go quickly about all the matches that have happened so far in the new year, and then just look at what has changed in the table so far. We do have some exciting races going on at the top of the table, like we talked in 2020. I believe it was my last show of 2020 that I talked about. And so let's just get right into it. Starting with Serie A, we have some pretty big-time blowouts this week with some of the top teams really taking advantage of their matchups. You had Inter Milan taking on Crotone, and they absolutely dominated them 6-2. You had a hat-trick from Lautaro Martinez. You had contributions from Lukaku, from Hakimi, those 3-star players there for them. Crotone did get some goals in the early parts of this game. Nicolo Zaniolato scored in the 12th minute, and then a penalty from Golemic in the 36th minute. Looked like a pretty good start for Crotone. I mean, they got the lead early on, and then after Inter Milan got off to a 2-1 lead, with an own goal from Luca Maron, unfortunately, for Crotone, Golemic gets that 36-minute penalty. So they go into half tied 2-2. So you're thinking, Crotone, all right, look, they're putting up a fight. They're looking good, even though, they're haven't been looking good this season at all. I mean, bottom of the table bad. And then they reared that ugly head once again, giving up 4 goals in the second half. Obviously, 2 from Lautaro Martinez, 1 from Lukaku, and then 1 from Hakimi at the end of the game. It was just once they had that like the snowball, once it was rolling down, it just got bigger and bigger, and it got really ugly for Crotone really fast. So but a huge win for Inter Milan to start off their 2021 campaign, and it has them just continuing to look as dominant as ever in Serie A. I think I remember counting, it was like that they had 7 straight wins in Serie A, and this makes it 8. It kind of looks like they're undefeated, like they can't be beat. So I actually want to look at what their next couple games are. Let's see if they have some some challenging matches. I mean, they have Sampdoria. That's not really that challenging. I mean, Sampdoria are 11th in the Serie A, so they haven't really been that consistent. Roma, that's going to be exciting. They have a round of 16 matchup against Fiorentina in Coppa Italia. That's going to be fun to watch. And then they have the big-time matchup on January 17th against Juve. Now, that's going to be one that you're going to want to watch. 2 powerhouses, an immovable wall with an unstoppable force. Which one's going to give out? I don't know. I feel like Inter Milan are just kind of unstoppable right now. Clicking on all cylinders. It's just painful to see because I had them going into the knockout rounds being one of the top. This is what I expected from them in the Champions League, and we just didn't get that. It's just so sad that they're not even in the Europa League. I can't even believe I'm saying that they're not even in the Europa League, but whatever. I'm getting ahead of myself. They just look so dominant in that game, 6-2. It's hard not to talk about it. Fiorentina and Bologna got a 0-0 draw. Nothing crazy to talk about there. Torino dominated Parma 3-0. Got a goal early on from Singo in the 8th minute. It kind of was a stalemate after that, but then Izzo scored in the 88th minute, and Gojak pretty much in the last minute of the game made it 3-0 just to pretty much seal the deal for Torino, and it gets them out of that relegation area and makes it really interesting for Parma as they've now lost 3 games in a row, and they're only 1 point away from that relegation zone. The only reason Torino's not in there, because they have 11 points, same as Spezia and Genoa, is because of their goal differential. Their defense has been terrible, but their offense has been consistently good. You look at that offense from Torino, 25 goals scored. That's more than anybody up until 8th place Verona. They've scored more points than all those teams. After that, they have the 8th best offense in this entire league. And sure, that'll help you score goals. I mean, that'll help you, win games. But they also have one of the worst defenses, and that's why they're so low. It's tough to see, but still, Torino took care of business here, and they were able to get that clean sheet. Not something they've been able to do so much this season. Roma getting a win against Sampdoria. It was only a 1-0 win with Dzeko getting the winner in the 72nd minute. So not really that much of an exciting game, but Roma did have 21 shots in this game. You kind of expect them to get a better, goal total in this game, but they only had 6 shots on target. But still, they get the 3 points. That's all they really needed there, and that's they moved on. You did have a big time, probably the game of the week, in my opinion, between Atalanta and Sassuolo, but it did not turn out to be that competitive, as Atalanta just absolutely dominated Sassuolo 5-1. Duvan Zapata got a brace, getting an early goal in the 11th minute. Then after that, there was no more scoring in that first half. It went into the halftime up 1-0, and then Matteo Pessina in the 45th minute gets that goal. Duvan Zapata got his brace in the 49th minute, and then Robin Gosens and Muriel score in the 57th and 67th minute to make it 5-1. It was actually 5-0 at that point. Sassuolo got their consolation goal from Vlad Chiriches in the 75th minute, but that was all she wrote. I mean, this was just an absolutely dominant showing from Atalanta. Not something we've been seeing from them at all this season, but it does inch them closer into that top 5 spot. They're only 2 points out of 5th place behind Juventus, and they do have 3 wins and 2 draws in the last 5 games, so they're certainly starting to play a bit better than they did early on in this season. And Sassuolo, on the other hand, 2 losses and a win in their last 3 games, dropping points when it's starting to get tight up there on the top. They were one of the top teams in the league for a while. I mean, obviously they were keeping pace with AC Milan and Lyon in the season, but now it seems to be, just being tough for them to maintain that level of play and to play against these top teams like Atalanta, Juve, Napoli, Roma, and obviously the Milan squads up top. It's just they're not able to hold on. Next, we look at another blowout where we had Juventus defeating Udinese 4-1. Not very surprising there. Udinese have not been very consistent. Their offense has been very poor. Even though they were able to get a score here, it was late in the 90th minute. Cristiano Ronaldo scored a brace. Chiesa got a goal in the 49th minute. Paulo Dybala got a goal for himself in the extra time. That should be great for his confidence, but just an absolute dominant showing from Juventus. And they were very clinical. So big 3 points for them. And they needed it because they need to keep pace with some of these top teams, especially if they want any sort of chance to get into that, to get a top 3 finish. I mean, I don't think they have a chance for a title, but we'll have to see. Verona continues to impress, getting a 1-0 victory over Spezia. Not that that's anything to go home about, because Spezia have been one of the worst teams this season, and they needed a red card to help them with that, because in the 68th minute, Spezia went down to 10 men. Verona took advantage of it, scored in the 75th minute. So they did what they had to do to get 3 points and stay near the top of the table. They're in 8th place ahead of Lazio. And I guarantee you nobody entering this season, me included, expected that. So next, and then you look at, I got to talk about, you got to talk about, I was going to talk about AC Milan, who, like I've said, have been one of the top teams this entire season, and they continue to be on a run. Even though they got a red card in this game, in the 33rd minute, they were down a man. Sandro Tonali the youngster gets a poor red card in the 33rd minute, so they're playing without a man. Although they already took the lead before that with a penalty by Kessie in the 15th minute, but they were still able to score a goal down a man in the 49th minute from Rafael Leao, who's been playing so great for AC Milan so far this season. And it's not like Benevento didn't have chances. I mean, they had 25 shots, only 5 were on target, though. They certainly dominated AC Milan when they went down a man, but they took advantage of their opportunities, AC Milan, and that's why they're undefeated this season. They have just been so sound when their backs are against the wall, and they took care of business. Rafael Leao taking that number 9 spot, Ante Rebic coming in, Kalhanoglu playing well, Kessie's been playing well, Romagnoli playing well, Kajar has been playing good. It's just a full team effort from AC Milan, and that's why they are at the top of the table still. So that's going to wrap it up for Serie A. Let's move on to the Bundesliga, where we had some interesting games. I mean, you had Dortmund taking on Wolfsburg. That was a very exciting matchup. I mean, I'm sure anybody wasn't really sure where to go there with Dortmund playing so bad of late, and Wolfsburg actually, being one of the better teams in the Bundesliga this season. But it was Dortmund coming out on top with a 2-0 victory. Huge win for them. A big confidence booster for them. You had Jadon Sancho getting a goal in extra time. Akanji scoring in the 66th minute. And they got a 2-0 win. I mean, I don't think any team entering 2021 needed a win as much as Dortmund in the Bundesliga because, I mean, they've been dropping points left and right. And they've been falling weight. I mean, I don't think they have a chance at the Bundesliga title anymore with Bayern just, playing so well. Obviously, RB Leipzig trying to keep pace with them. But, yeah, man, they have 25 points now, 8 behind Bayern. It kind of feels like a very big uphill battle. And Mönchengladbach, the other Borussia team, also getting a win over Arminia, a 1-0 win, getting a goal from Breel and Bolo. They just as much needed a goal. I mean, a win. They haven't had one in their last, I don't even know how many games. Let's see, one. I'm talking about just Bundesliga, and I'm talking wins. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 games. They had a 4-game unwin. Where they hadn't won. I don't know how you say it. I'm not gonna think about it too much. But they haven't won in 4 games. They certainly needed a win there, and they got it with a 1-0 win over Arminia. Nothing to go home about, but, to really shout about. But still, a 1-0 win is a 1-0 win. They get those 3 points and move on. SC Freiburg getting a big win over Hoffenheim. I mean, ended 2020 great, continuing that momentum into 2021. And I'm loving what I'm seeing from them. I mean, 4 straight wins. And they're looking like that team that I was talking about in the beginning of the year. I know you guys know what I'm talking about. I love talking about those, little clubs that could, like the Granadas, the Southamptons. I talked about the Brightons, although they haven't been as good. The SC Freiburgs killing it, man. 4 wins in a row, and I mean, they're within range, absolutely, of that Europa League spot. Only 4 points away from Union Berlin in that 5th spot. But same thing with Union Berlin. Super excited for them as well. Even though, they have 2 wins in a row and then 2 draws before that. So they haven't lost a game in their last 4 games. Certainly playing well. Bayern Munich taking care of business, as you would expect, with a 5-2 win over Mainz. RB Leipzig getting a big win over against Stuttgart, a 1-0 win. Got a goal from Danny Olmo in the 67th minute. And you look at that, I mean, the way that the game was going, you expected RB Leipzig to absolutely win this game, but by a lot more than just 1 goal. But still, they got the win. They have 3 wins in the last 4 games. Same thing as Bayern Munich, so they're still keeping pace with them, but they need to take their game up a notch. Their defense has been extraordinary, 100%. Only allowed 9 goals so far in their 14 games. By far the best in the Bundesliga, and I mean by far. The best team after that is Leverkusen with 14 goals allowed, which is also still very, very good. But what RB Leipzig have been able to do defensively has been spectacular. It's just that their offense, obviously with Timo Werner no longer there, have not been able to adjust to not having that star striker in them on the top of the pitch. So, it's good that they've been able to, change their game. Usually you see RB Leipzig as one of those, top attacking teams. Obviously with Werner there, that was their identity. And now they're more of those, methodical teams that'll beat you defensively and get the goals when they need to. Another top team in the Bundesliga that was not able to take care of business, Bayer Leverkusen, losing to Eintracht Frankfurt 2-1. Huge win for Frankfurt. Their fourth of the season. That makes it 2 wins in a row for them for now. Now, to be able to stay in that top 8 position. And for Bayer Leverkusen, a tough loss to take, especially with them squarely being right in that position with RB Leipzig. Now they dropped 2 games in a row, 2 losses in a row after 3 straight wins in their last 5 games. And, Bayern Munich are not going to slow down. Bayer Leverkusen need to find a way to find that consistency again if they want to have any chance to challenge for that Bundesliga title. But at the moment, it looks like it's going to be Bayern Munich and RB Leipzig. But again, it's nowhere near over for Bayer Leverkusen. So, yeah, it just sucks that they dropped points there. And what's the other team I saw? It was... Where is it? I just saw them. Oh, I went too low. That's what it was. It was Union Berlin taking care of business with a 2-0 win over Werder Bremen. That's what they need to do. Win those games against the team that they absolutely should beat. And that's going to keep you at the top of the table. And it does. It keeps them in that European spot at number 5. You just love to see that for those, for that small club. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for the Bundesliga. Now let's move on to the Spanish league, La Liga, where we had some interesting games going on. You had Real Madrid taking on Celta Vigo. They took care of business there, getting a 2-0 win. Sevilla dropped a few points to Real Betis, a 1-1 draw for them. You had Atletico Madrid once again just taking care of business. With Real Madrid winning, they needed to win. They got a 2-1 victory over Alaves. Athletic Club beating Elche 1-0. Valladolid defeating Getafe 1-0. Villarreal defeating Levante 2-1. Not many big-time matchups. I'll tell you what, there was a big-time loss for Granada, losing to Eibar 2-0. Not at all what I would expect from them, but it is now 2 losses in their last 3 games. They need to continue to play well if they want to have any chance at one of those European spots. Especially, they do have a game in hand on a couple, a lot of the teams below them, so they're not at a big threat of falling much lower, but the teams above them are serious competition. They're in 7th place. 6th, you got Sevilla. 5th, Barcelona. Villarreal after that. Real Sociedad, who obviously haven't been playing well, but over the last 2 games, they at least have a win and a draw, so it's a little bit better than, those 3 straight losses before that. Or I'm pretty sure it was more than just 3 losses in a row, but still, and then obviously you got Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid. So I'm not sure, where Granada can fit in there. All those teams are very good and haven't been playing terrible. Aside from Real Sociedad, the other teams have, been playing okay. Villarreal has dropped a few points, but so maybe they can take in that spot, but still, Granada need to be playing better, especially with teams like Sevilla, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, pretty much, in my opinion, going to be locked into those top 4 spots if they continue to play the way that they're playing. And then talking about Barcelona, like I said, they took care of business, getting a 1-0 win over Huesca, even though that was not very convincing. Frankie de Jong does get one of those rare goals that he gets, but he's obviously got that skill. But he does get that rare goal to give Barcelona that 1-0 victory. And Valencia Cadiz 1-1 draw, nothing too interesting there. But yeah, Real Sociedad dropped more points. Even though a draw, they'll take a draw over a loss. But they went down early in the 20th minute. Osasuna scored the opening goal. And then in the second half, Real Sociedad scored in the 46th minute. They just couldn't get that second goal to really put them over the top. And they didn't look that dominant, to be honest. Only 2 shots on target in this game. They just have not looked the same team. They just have not looked like the same team that they did early on in the season. But yeah, that's pretty much going to be it for Ligue 1. for La Liga, and now we're going to move on to Liga, which really there's nothing going on. They haven't played their games yet to start this new year. There are some interesting games. I mean, you got Lille taking on Angers. You have PSG starting that Pochettino era against Saint Etienne. Lyon taking on Lens. What else? Marseille taking on Montpellier. But really, there's no like big time matchups going on. So in the French league, there's not much to talk about yet. But we will be getting into that very soon. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this segment of the top 5 leagues. Make sure you guys stick around, because when I come back, we're going to be talking about all that juicy transfer news going on as we are in that January transfer window.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back, everyone. If you missed the last segment, we talked about the other top 5 leagues, aside from the Premier League, just talked about some of the matches that went on in this new 2021 year, and then just discussed the tables a bit. But now we're going to be talking about the transfer news, as we are now in the thick of that January transfer window, and there is a lot of news to talk about. So let's just get right into it. There has been a lot of news already in 2021, of course, and I want to start it off with some USMNT news, as Deandre Yedlin, the fullback, an MLS team has made a bid for him, specifically an Eastern Conference team. It has not been reported which team that is, although it would not be a designated player deal. Now, Deandre Yedlin at the moment obviously playing for Newcastle in the Premier League, and though Newcastle haven't been a consistent team in the Premier League for some time now, he has won favor back with Steve Bruce, the manager, and he's getting regular starting 11 minutes now. Does that sway his decision? Does that make him decide, no, I think I'm in the prime of my career, which he is. I believe he's like 29 years old, and he still wants to play in the Premier League. Absolutely, that is his decision. Although it's not really winning him any favor with the USMNT squad, because at the moment, I mean, he's probably the backup fullback. When you got youngsters like obviously Serginho Dest and Tony Robinson and others, kind of moving on up, and they're at younger ages, and they're winning more favor with Berhalter. So it's a tough decision for Yedlin. I mean, obviously, moving back home to the States would obviously, still be, there's some positives there as well. But I don't know. I still feel like maybe staying in Europe for a little longer, especially since he's still in the prime of his career. He's still one of the better teams. He's still, a very solid fullback. Obviously speed comes out. It's like the first thing you think of when you think of Yedlin. And of course, he would be one of the better fullbacks in the MLS if he were to come through. But still, it's a tough decision. I mean, and since it does say Eastern Conference, obviously I would love to think that that's the Inter Miami, especially with a lot of these players that they're letting go at the moment. But I doubt it. I don't think they're going to be putting in a bid for Yedlin. Although with it not being a designated player move, I mean, it's always possible. I could see Inter Miami making a move for him, but I just don't think it will be us to get him. And I think he might actually stay at Newcastle. He's been there for a while now, and I don't know how many seasons exactly. I think like 4 or 5 seasons. And with him now getting those regular minutes, maybe that could be Newcastle trying to build up his value to try to sell him during the transfer window. But I mean, at the moment, that's still up in the air. Next, we had Arsenal confirming that William Saliba has joined Nice on loan. Very good for Saliba. I mean, now he can probably get some first-team football over there in the French club. And for Nice, obviously bringing in, someone with his kind of talent into the season for the rest, into the team for the rest of the season, could definitely help them at least, avoid any sort of problems. Because they're 12th right now, and they're not in, threat of being relegated. Of course, they're mid-table, but still, bringing in that kind of talent will certainly help them in the long run. Don't see that it's with a purchase option. Let me check that out. It does not include an option to buy for the defender, but still, at just 19 years old, he's gonna get more opportunities there. And the French club, the French league is where that young talent usually thrives, and it'll be interesting to see how he does there. Next, what else we got here? We got some interesting stuff going on. I mean, we got Atalanta's Papu Gomez being reported that Juventus are keeping a close eye on the attacking midfielder, and I mean, that would be huge, since it's being reported that Papu Gomez wants to leave Atalanta. I mean, he hasn't played since December 16th. As reports are continuing to be circled around him that he wants to leave with the club due to disagreements with the manager Gasperini. And obviously Juventus are always eyeing for more talent, and they obviously guys like Bernardeschi, who are playing primarily off the bench, aren't getting a lot of minutes, so he could take in that role, and he would be easily the starter. He'd be by far Juventus' best playmaker. Not sure what would happen there with Paulo Dybala, because he certainly likes to play that number 10 spot, but I mean, Papu Gomez, a lot of people are going to be eyeing him. I even heard some MLS teams thinking about picking him up, and I mean, my goodness, if he's able to... I heard someone like Cincinnati were thinking about picking him up, and that would be a huge, huge move for them. I mean, I think that's a reach. I do not think he's going to be making a move to the MLS. I mean, he's still one of the top attacking midfielders in the world, in my opinion. And but still, it's interesting to see that Juventus are keeping an eye on him, because that would be a huge move for them, and it hurts for Atalanta, because they are, I mean, they're still a very good attacking team. They have a lot of very strong attacking players, but Papu Gomez is the key to all of that. I mean, he's their talisman playmaker, and the fact that he's not in good favor or having disagreements with the manager, that's certainly not a good sign for Atalanta. Next, we have defender Justin Glad signing a new deal with Real Salt Lake. He was their academy product, and now he's got a new multi-year deal to stay with Real Salt Lake, which he's played about over 100 games or 130 games. And that's still good for them. I mean, honestly, anytime an academy product stays with his hometown club is always good news. You never like to see those guys move away. I mean, right now, Inter Miami just recently signed their first hometown player, like a 16-year-old winger. I would want him to stay with us forever. I mean, obviously, that's not realistic. I mean, the players move all the time. But when you see this new deal being signed with Real Salt Lake for Glad, it always puts a smile on my face. Next, we have West Ham deciding not to pursue a Arnautovic return. I mean, he's destined to... the club has determined a move to bring back the Austrian would be too expensive. He has done pretty good in China, scoring 17 goals in 29 games, but West Ham just... I mean, and they've been playing well, West Ham, so I mean, I guess they just feel it's going to be too much for him to move back to his former club. Next we have, let's see if we have any bigger news. AJ De La Garza setting up to join New England Revolution, Bruce Arena's team. The defender reuniting with him, having played for him back in his days with the LA Galaxy. He did spend the last season with Inter Miami, but honestly, he didn't really do much. He only had 5 appearances and didn't really make that big of an impact for us. I mean, it's decisions like this, it's moves like this that makes me wonder if maybe Inter Miami are thinking about making a bigger move for a guy like Deandre Yedlin, and that would be interesting to see. But yes, De La Garza moving to the Revolution. Let's see, Real Sociedad striker William Jose is the subject of interest from Atletico Madrid. They're probably trying to find a player to fill in that Diego Costa spot, and that would be huge for them. I mean, William Jose is not that big time name like a Diego Costa that's going to be demanding time. I mean, obviously he's still going to be looking for time, but it would be still, the 29-year-old would be a huge move for Atletico Madrid to pretty much shore up that number 9 spot in case of any injuries for Luis Suarez, and it would certainly be a big time move for them. Now we're going to be moving on to some PSG news, and some big ones at that, as Sergio Ramos has been linked to PSG and is open to playing with Messi there. I mean, that is that is as big as it gets. I mean, if you would tell me that it's possible to get, I don't think it is. I think they'd have to sell possibly Mbappe or Neymar, although I believe they'd prefer to keep one of those two guys instead of bringing in a guy like Ramos or Messi. Although, that's so hard, because they are obviously getting up there in age, but they're still top talent. And if you can bring in a guy like Sergio Ramos to link up with Lionel Messi at PSG, I mean, the Real Madrid have yet to offer Ramos a contract extension, so it looks like he's going to be dropping into that free agency pool. And if PSG can pick him up, I mean, that would be incredible. Think about that. A team with, I mean, if they're able to get him, a team of Mbappe, Neymar, Di Maria, Sergio Ramos, Lionel Messi. That just sounds that sounds too good to be true. It probably is, but the fact that these rumors are even out there just makes me feel so good. It's hard to even keep in my excitement. But yes, that would be huge. And I mean, I don't know how PSG would be coming up with that kind of money. They obviously got to make huge time sales. I mean, now with what is it? I believe they have him on loan. There's no purchase to buy there, but for Keane, for Moise Keane. So I don't think they can sell him. I don't know. It's going to be tough, but the fact that it's even out there is exciting to think. Felipe Anderson's loan spell at Porto is set to be cut short this month. West Ham planning to recall the 27-year-old and send him to a different club until the end of the season. Anderson, even getting that loan move to Porto, has not been able to get any regular minutes, as he's getting just 3 appearances in all competitions in the first half of the season. Obviously, when West Ham sent Felipe Anderson over there, they were not expecting him to get no time and not, and no regular play. So they obviously want to send him somewhere where, he'll be able to get the experience. Even though he's at 27 years old, but they still want him to get regular play so that his value can get higher. At the moment, they're obviously going to be bringing him back so that they can send him somewhere else. Let's see, next. Shevchenko is under consideration for the Chelsea job. Obviously, Frank Lampard struggling there, and there's a lot of rumors that he could be on the way out. He could be sacked very soon, especially if these struggles continue. And Shevchenko is under consideration for that top job. You look at, he's a former Chelsea striker, so he obviously has, that history with the club. He's currently in charge of the Ukraine national team, who's, been playing very strong. I've said plenty of good things about them, so, he's got the experience and would be an excellent, consideration for that Chelsea job. Let's see, what's next? What do we got next? Solskjaer wants 3 fresh faces at Manchester United. And I mean, I feel like that's exactly what they need. They need fresh players. I mean, especially since they're probably going to sell Pogba. They need those fresh players to really give them that boost to winning the title. Because, I mean, right now they're tied with Liverpool, like we talked about in the first segment. And if they really want to make that push for the Premier League title, they need to make these moves. And they're preparing to make sweeping changes to their squad, with it suggested that Solskjaer wants to change 20% of his side each season. So obviously he's looking to make those big time moves. The board backs him. I mean, even though through his struggles they've kept him on, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of moves he makes. Obviously, Jadon Sancho is going to be one of the guys that are in that mix. I mean, who knows who else, but it's going to be very exciting to keep an eye on that. Spurs have not closed the door on Christian Eriksen, so I don't know what that's all about. Bringing him back after letting him go, I don't think you should make that move. I mean, once they let him go, I mean, they're considering a loan move for him, so they're not even trying to purchase him back. There's more talks about Eriksen up ahead, which I'm going to definitely prefer to talk about, and they should certainly not go for him. I mean, or at least Christian Eriksen shouldn't think about going back. Go with Pochettino, PSG. Yeah, that's better for you. Let's see. Bayern Munich are prepared to part ways with Javi Martinez, which, I mean, was expected. He's due to become a free agent in the summer, and he's being talked about to return to his former club, Athletic Club, and it would be, I mean, it would just be the smart decision. I mean, Javi Martinez obviously is a legend at Bayern Munich, has done so many good things for the club, has won a lot with the club, but, I mean, he's not really getting regular minutes, and the fact that he's already in talks with Athletic Club, just allow the Spaniard to move on and get regular minutes towards the end of his career, because Bayern Munich, they're starting to get into that youth movement. Man City mulling a move for Ramos. That would be huge for them, but just I mean, that would be one of those sure purchases for them, because a lot of the time that they make those defender buys that Pep Guardiola has done, what is it, like 400 million on defenders alone. It's usually for those young defenders like Ruben Diaz that has yet to prove himself in a big club, and he's been okay, but he hasn't been that world-class defender that they were hoping when they brought him in for a record fee. So bringing in a guy like Ramos to kind of settle things in that back line would obviously be huge for them. And if they can get him for free this summer, that'd be incredible. I mean, obviously, like I already said, Real Madrid has not offered Sergio Ramos a new contract. Maybe they're trying to go into a youth movement. Not really sure there, but that would be an absolutely huge move for Man City. I mean, for any team to be able to get a guy of the caliber of Sergio Ramos, who is still considered one of the best defenders in the world, even at his ripe age of 34, it would just be huge for them. Let's see, Coman. Bayern Munich star Kinsley Coleman has spoken out on the transfer rumors linking him up to Manchester United and Manchester City. He has enjoyed an incredible rise to stardom after being getting a senior debut with PSG from their academy. Obviously not getting much time there, then moving to Bayern Munich. Well, I mean, joining Juventus first, and then he moved to Bayern Munich on loan and has just absolutely blown up there. Obviously scoring the goal in the Champions League final last season, and just being an absolute beast for them, and he's grown immensely. So obviously move to Manchester United or Man City would be huge for him. But the thing is like Man United, I mean, I feel like they would probably put him in that Greenwood spot, let Greenwood continue to develop, not get too much pressure being in the starting 11. Man City, I don't know. I mean, maybe putting him on one of those wing spots that doesn't get a consistent, player, especially with Sané having left. It would be interesting if Coman replaces his now teammate's position there. But he certainly should try to get a move out, because, I mean, even though Coman has been huge for Bayern Munich, he doesn't get consistent minutes there. He's not like they're one of the first names on the team sheet. So if he can make a move to a big club that gives him those opportunities, he should certainly be there. Olivier Giroud is on the Juventus shortlist of January transfer targets. Obviously, I like Alvaro Morata there, but if you can get a guy like Giroud, who is just playing out of his mind right now, 8 goals in his last 8 outings. If you can get him, he's supposed to be a free agent at the end of the season. There were talks of him going to the MLS before this season started. Now, a team like Juventus is thinking about bringing him on. He should absolutely try to make that move if it's possible. I mean, Chelsea have not been playing well lately. He has been their best player this season, and if he can make that move, he should absolutely do that. But it would be a big move, plain and simple. Now to the real juicy stuff. Man City have annoyed Kevin De Bruyne with a low contract offer to help fund the move for Messi. They're obviously, with Messi possibly on the way out this summer, they're obviously eyeing that. And they have given their star player, Kevin De Bruyne, a low offer. Less money than he's already on to sign a new, it says right here, The Athletic have revealed why Kevin De Bruyne has been offered less money than he's already on to sign a new contract at Manchester City. Obviously, the Blues are eager to figure down to fresh terms, but they are holding back funds to try and convince Lionel Messi to join the club from Barcelona at the end of the season. I just think there's no way you should do this. Do not compromise someone that has been with you for a long time now, just in hopes to sign Messi. There are a lot of teams eyeing Messi. Obviously, Manchester City with the Guardiola connection are one of the top teams, one of the front runners. But do not, what's the word I'm trying to say? Don't mess up your relationship with Kevin De Bruyne, who's the best attacking midfielder in the world right now, in order to get Messi. It's a dream move. It would be awesome. I understand that, but you could be in a way forcing him out or making him not want to stay. Just in all honesty. Let's see what else. Barca ready to take up Ricky Puig's contract option. Obviously, the 21-year-old has been incredible. He's featured in 5 games across all competitions, and he hasn't scored yet. But last season, he showed absolutely incredible potential. Obviously, Ronald Koeman wants to bring in a youth movement, and Ricky Puig is in their plans. So this would be a great move for them, even though he hasn't done much as of late. The Wolves are yet to enter talks for Diego Costa or Christian Eriksen. Don't know why. With Raul Jimenez out with an injury, a tough one at that. I mean, they need some insurance in the front. So I don't know why they're not going for Diego Costa. They absolutely should be in those talks. Obviously, Eriksen, not sure. I mean, he can obviously help that club as well. And if Eriksen wants to move back to the Premier League, the Wolves should absolutely entertain that option. But they have not done so yet. Next, Juve will not part ways with Demiral. He's finding regular game time hard to come by. Obviously, Juventus preferring to go with that legendary duo. But if he can't get into the favor of Andrea Pirlo, then I don't see any reason why he should stay. I know they have the duo of Bonucci. Who else? Chiellini. I mean, obviously they go with those two defenders over Demiral, but Demiral is that younger guy. I mean, eventually Pirlo will give him time, so maybe he sees the benefits in staying. At the moment, there is none right now. There are signs. Back to the Messi talk. There is rumors going that Messi was most likely leaving Barcelona in the summer, and it's just incredible to think. I mean, I never would have thought that Messi would not be a Barcelona player, but it just seems more and more likely that he is on the way out. Especially with the way the season's gone, they're 5th in La Liga, have not been playing any kind of consistent football, and I just don't see any reason why Messi should stay. Let's see, Barca, no plans to sell Griezmann. Obviously, Ronald Koeman sees Griezmann as that star player to kind of take him into that next era without Messi, and maybe without that star, without all that attention to Messi, Griezmann can shine the way he did with Atletico Madrid. Obviously, he just has not been the same. He just hasn't been that same player that he was at Atletico Madrid in the Camp Nou. but they just don't have any desire to listen to offers. And honestly, they shouldn't. Because if Messi's leaving, there's no reason why they should get rid of Griezmann as well. He can absolutely help all these young players kind of, move on. But now I'm seeing an updated report saying that Man City will not make an approach for Ramos. I mean, it was suggested that Manchester City were keen on snapping up the World Cup winner, but with his contract running down. But the Blues are already well stocked for center halves. Of course they are, but still, Sergio Ramos is a different kind of animal. He's not just another center half. He's one of the best of all time, and should absolutely be at least considered. Arsenal not allowing El Neni to leave. And the way they've been playing, they shouldn't. But the Egyptian midfielder has been getting interest from teams like Besiktas, and if El Neni can get regular time there, he should probably leave. But with Arsenal having no intention of parting ways with him, then it's going to take a big-time offer. Giroud set to remain at Chelsea, at least for this January transfer window. So that hurts for teams like Juventus. But still, Frank Lampard will get his wish to keep the Frenchman at Stamford Bridge for another 6 months, as pressure grows over his position in charge of the club. So at least they were able to, he was able to convince the board to keep him there. Honestly, in a way, that's a good sign for Frank Lampard, as they're actually listening to him. If they didn't, and they were like, oh, we're going to sell him anyways, then that wouldn't look good. That looks like he's probably 1 foot out the door. But next, Guardiola pretty sure that De Bruyne will sign a new contract. He seems confident, but if they continue to lowball him, there's absolutely no reason to think that De Bruyne won't consider other options. So he's got to be, very sure about that. Pochettino has left the door open for the arrival of Barcelona icon Lionel Messi at PSG, which of course he is. When you're a new manager at a club, you're not going to say, nah, we don't want this guy, especially when he's one of the best players of all time. You're absolutely going to entertain that option, and he should do so. Let's see, what else we got? Pochettino also looking into Eriksen, looking at all possibilities amid links to Christian Eriksen, and he would be great. A great player that can certainly level things in the playmaking position. Another playmaker, someone aside from Mbappe and Neymar to kind of set things up for other players, which is something that they need, because it always feels like without Neymar, without Mbappe, they kind of like are starved for creators, and Eriksen is exactly that. So from what I'm looking at, that's kind of pretty much everything on the transfer news section. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to stick around, because when I come back, we're going to be talking about the top 10 Premier League teams this season.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back, everyone. If you missed the last segment, we talked about all the juicy transfer news going on in the world of soccer with the January transfer window pretty much right now. And now we're going to be talking about the top 10 Premier League teams this season. I know what you guys are thinking. Oh, this is just going to be you naming the pretty much 1 through 10 in the standings. But no, that's not how I'm going to do it. I'm going to be talking about which teams I believe are the top 10 teams in the Premier League right now. Maybe some that have been playing well are going to get into this top 10, and maybe some that haven't been playing as good that are in the top 10 right now fall a little bit low in my rankings. So stay tuned, and we're going to be talking about it right now, starting with Arsenal at number 10. And yes, they did just enough over their last 3 games for me to consider them into the top 10. They are right now 11th in the table, so that's not very far off from where I have them in the rankings. But it's been overall a very disappointing season from Arsenal. A lot of fans were expecting them to be, near the top of the table, especially after what you saw from them last season, to go ahead and win the FA Cup over Chelsea and just finish off the season on a high note. Them being able to hold on to Aubameyang, bringing in Thomas Partey, so many different things that kind of went their way over the transfer window, and obviously bringing in Willian from Chelsea as well, someone who has a lot of experience in the Premier League, a great playmaker, should certainly help getting guys like Lacazette and Aubameyang involved and getting them good looks, but it has just not worked out 100%, and that's why they're all the way down at number 10. I mean, Aubameyang has looked like a shell of himself with 3 goals and an assist in 15 appearances, and one of those 3 goals were a penalty. So, I mean, in all honesty, it's 2 goals in free play. He's also got an own goal on his tally. So, it just has been a tough year for Aubameyang. On the other side, Alexander Lacazette leads this team in goals by a wide margin. 7 goals in his 14 appearances has been very, very strong for them, and is a big reason why they're right now playing at a high level. I mean, Bernd Leno has been very solid between the sticks. He doesn't have a great save percentage, but honestly, that defense, that back line has been very poor this year. He's got a .667 save percentage with 5 clean sheets in his 17 appearances. He's been shot at 57 times in 17 games. Not a very good recipe for success, and that's a big reason why they're not playing that well. I do need to give shout-outs to Bukayo Saka, 19-year-old who has been giving a lot of first-team minutes and has answered the call. He's got 3 goals and an assist. For a guy that young to still step up and play a big role on this team, that's huge. Hector Bellerin and Rob Holding, Kieran Tierney, they've been okay. I mean, Bellerin has had some bad moments this season. It's on the wrong side of 30. No, what is he? No. Is pretty much not in good favor with the fans, and they pretty much want him off the squad at the moment. And Danny Ceballos, after playing huge last season, it has just not been the same. Mohamed El-Neni plays like an absolute monster in the cup games, but when it comes to Premier League action, he's got a big old 0 in that goal and assist column, has not helped in that area at all. The club record signing Nicolas Pepe has still not stepped up at all, with 2 goals in his 11 appearances. Guys like Thomas Partey has not really, put a big dent into that, into the team. Hasn't really done much. Maitland-Niles hasn't stepped up in a big way. Eddie Nketiah, they're still not ready yet to really, contribute to that, to the senior team in the Premier League. And then you got guys like Mustafi, Kolasinac, who are just no longer getting any minutes. You do have Martinelli. He's got 3 appearances only this season. He is still 19 years old, so there's still a lot of potential in him, but he's not getting any minutes. I mean, it's just been a roller coaster of a season for Arsenal. Right now, they're on their way up. They're on the up part of the roller coaster. So if they can continue that, maybe they can go up a little bit higher on these rankings, and they can maybe take one of those European spots. But that's a big maybe. Next, at number 9, we have Chelsea. Another team that has just had a roller coaster of a season, but it's more been like in the beginning of the year, they had some ups and downs, but now it's like a big-time low. They're having the worst stretch of their season, and a big part of that is because their top signings, Timo Werner, Kai Havertz, have not produced the way they were expecting. I mean, Timo Werner, he has 4 goals, 4 assists, but it's just been, not clinical at all in front of goal. I mean, he's had opportunities to score, but has not looked like the player that they paid 50 million euros for, like, at all. Mason Mount has been solid, a goal and 3 assists in his 16 appearances. N'Golo Kante has been very solid in that midfield, a very calming presence for Chelsea. I love what Kurt Zouma has done in that back line. I like Ben Chilwell as well. 2 goals, 4 assists in his 14 appearances. Edouard Mendy between the sticks has been huge for them now that they don't have to go with Kepa. That's a big upgrade for them. Obviously, their best player this season so far, Olivier Giroud, he's been good, but he's up there in age, so they can't play him all 90 minutes. He's got 9 appearances, 4 starts, but he's been easily their hottest player. Tammy Abraham has been good as well, 6 goals and 1 assist in his 14 appearances. And the player that should be their top player, Christian Pulisic, still trying to get back from injury, has not been able to get his legs under him. I mean, he's looked solid, but he hasn't been the same that he was last season. And that's the kind of player they need because they are not getting any consistent attack from their star players. Same thing with Hakim Ziyech. He comes in already injured, or at least he started the season off injured. He's got 1 goal, 3 assists in his 8 appearances, has not been consistent with them at all, and that's obviously due to that injury. And they need those guys to be playing consistently. And the same thing could be said about Kovacic. He's only got 12 appearances this season, 1 assist. So all these guys that are playing, that played huge for them last season, like Kovacic and Christian Pulisic, who were easily their 2 best players, have not been able to have that same impact this season. And that's certainly affected Chelsea. And right now, it's affecting them in a big way. They're having the worst stretch of their season. That's why they've dropped all the way to 9th. They just so happen to be 9th in the table as well. That's Chelsea comes in at number 9. At number 8, I have Southampton, easily the biggest surprise of the entire season. Southampton has, exceeded expectations. I expected them to still be a very good team this year. I didn't expect them to be challenging for a Europa League spot or, one of those top European spots. I don't think they're going to stay there, but a lot of it has to do with that back line of Bednarek and Vestergaard, who has been very solid there. Bednarek has a goal and an assist. Vestergaard has 3 goals. And, Ward-Prowse has stepped up with 4 goals and 4 assists. Che Adams as well. 4 goals, 4 assists, and of course, it all gets surrounded by Theo Walcott. Danny Ings, who leads the team with 7 goals and 3 assists. And of course, like I just said, Theo Walcott coming into his former club has been huge for them on that winger, on the wing spot. 2 goals, 2 assists in his 12 appearances. Hasn't been huge, but he's done just enough to just fill in that spot and be another creator on the offensive end. Overall, this has just been a huge season for Southampton, and in the end, a lot of it has to do with the goalkeeper, Alex McCarthy. He's got a .730 save percentage, and 7 clean sheets in his 16 appearances. Just a huge season from him, and just overall, just a great overall team performance from Southampton, and that absolutely deserves them to be at number 8. Even though in the Premier League, they are right now at number 6, so I kind of have them a little lower on my rankings. That's because I feel like at number 7, Aston Villa is a better team than Southampton. I honestly believe that. I feel like they have a better defense. I feel like their offense has more dynamic playmakers. Of course, I'm talking about Jack Grealish, Ollie Watkins. They have a full set of of players in that front line. You also got to look at, El Ghazi has been huge with 5 goals. Jack Grealish, 5 goals, 7 assists. Ollie Watkins, 6 goals, 2 assists. John McGinn, 1 goal, 4 assists. They got so many options that can attack you. And then you also got Douglas Luiz, Emiliano Martinez has been huge between the sticks. He's got a .773 save percentage and 8 clean sheets in his 15 appearances. Just absolutely huge for this Aston Villa team. Tyrone Mings has been big as well. Bertrand Traore. Just an overall great performance from everybody on this team. And it's the biggest reason why they are fighting for one of those top European spots. Because at the moment they are 8th in the league, only 3 points behind only 3 points behind 4th place Tottenham. Like I've already said in the first segment, it's so extremely close in the top 10, and Aston Villa is in the thick of it. So Just huge for them. They did lose their last game, but they had 2 wins and 2 draws before that. So just they're playing well, playing consistent. They just need to continue to be strong on the defensive end, which has certainly been their strength this season, and continue to rely on those top players like Grealish, Watkins, El Ghazi to get them goals. And they should continue to surprise people this season. At number 6, we have Everton. Everton have been probably one of the more, I don't know, it's really tough to place, Everton on any one tier, because coming into the season, I was not expecting them to be one of the top teams in the Premier League. But, I mean, they're coming off 4 straight wins. They did lose their last game, and it's just, I believe it was to Southampton, if I'm not mistaken. No, it was to West Ham. And they're actually one of the teams that I'm snubbing here on my top 10. But still, Everton, with the amount of players that they have, James Rodriguez, Calvert-Lewin, who has stepped up in a huge way this season to become Everton's best player with 11 goals in 16 appearances. Doucouré, Alan have been huge in that midfield along with James Rodriguez. Richarlison continues to be, a great playmaker on the wing with 2 goals and 3 assists. Yerry Mina and Michael Keane have been staples in that back line. Also, Lucas Digne, one of the better fullbacks in the entire Premier League. Alex Iwobi, Sigurdsson add great depth to the team. Andre Gomez as well. Just an overall great team effort from Everton this season. They do need to get a little more from James Rodriguez. He started off the season so well, but he's picked up a few injuries and hasn't been able to be as consistent. Ben Godfrey coming into the team has also helped with depth, and that's what they are. And also Jordan Pickford, can't forget him. He gets a lot of criticism, but I do like what he does. He has a 707 save percentage, 3 clean sheets, and is just an overall very solid goalkeeper to have between the sticks in the Premier League, and they're one of the better teams. I mean, I have them just outside my top 5, but then you look at the rest of the top 5 I'm about to discuss. There's a reason for it. And at number 5, I have Tottenham Hotspurs. I mean, I would have made this list 2 weeks ago. I'd probably have Tottenham in my top 3, but Tottenham are kind of falling right now, not playing as consistent as you would think that they would. And it's crazy because they do have 2 of probably the best players in all of the Premier League, in Harry Kane and Son Heung-min. And they have one of the better goalkeepers in all of the Premier League in Hugo Lloris. But that's the biggest issue. They rely so much on those 3 players. The rest of the team doesn't really do much. I do love Dembele. I think he does a lot on both sides of the ball. But it's just the fact that they rely so heavily on Harry Kane and Son Heung-min to get them scoring options. I mean, for good reason. I mean, Harry Kane's got 10 goals, 11 assists. Son has 12 goals, 5 assists. So they've been the engine to that offense. But you need more. It's more than just a 2-man team in soccer. It's an overall team effort. Serge Aurier has not been, what he was before. Who else? Sissoko hasn't really stepped up in any big way. Pierre Hojbjerg, he's been okay in the midfield, but he hasn't been that same offensive player that you expected when he was brought in from Southampton. Lucas Moura is not having that same effect that he has had in years past for Tottenham. Giovanni Lo Celso has not played a big role on this team as well. Gareth Bale, someone that when he was brought in, so many people were expecting, that's it, this team's going to blow up. It's going to be on a different level in attack with Son, Kane, and Gareth Bale. Forget about it. It has not worked out that way. Dele Alli fell out of favor with Jose Mourinho, probably on the way out now. It's just a lot of players that could have stepped up. Davinson Sanchez as well and Harry Winks haven't worked out. It's just a lot of players have not worked out. But those 2, or I guess you can say those 3 players of Lloris, Kane, and Son have catapulted Tottenham into the top 5. If it wasn't for them, they'd be a lot worse this season. And I mean a lot worse. I mean, they might not have even made my top 10 if Son and Kane were not playing career seasons. So Tottenham comes in at number 5. At number 4, I got Leicester City. And I mean, it's just incredible, in my opinion, what Leicester City have been able to do with all the injuries that they've had to deal with, to two of their best defenders, and I would say they're two best defenders in Wilfred Ndidi and Pereira in the right back position. Ndidi is now coming back, playing, he's got 8 appearances under his belt now. Obviously he needs a little bit more time to get, back to 100%, I would say. But then you look at Jamie Vardy, incredible, ages like a fine wine, almost 34 years old now. He's got 11 goals and 5 assists. Yori Tillemans and Harvey Barnes have stepped up to assist them in that attack with 4 goals and 5 goals and 1 assist, respectfully. James Maddison has stepped up in a big way, 4 goals and 2 assists. I love what Timothy Castagna has done in his replacing Ben Chilwell on that left back position. He's got 1 goal and 2 assists. Wesley Fofana coming in from Ligue 1 has been huge for them. I knew that they would need him with guys like Ndidi and Pereira out because he gives them so much defensively. James Justin is another player that has been huge, a goal and an assist at just 22 years old, almost 23, has been great, has 17 starts under his belt. And just overall, this team has been playing so well and has a lot of depth and certainly deserves to be a top 4 team. At number 3, we have Manchester City. I know. I never expected to have them as 3rd. I thought they were locks for 1 or 2. I mean, if you talk about talent alone, you can probably put Manchester City as the number 2 team easily. Maybe number 1, but that's a debate for another day. But Manchester City just have not been as consistent as you would expect. Kevin De Bruyne is still probably the best playmaker in the entire Premier League. He's got 3 goals and 8 assists. Raheem Sterling hasn't had that same, insane effect on the attack. 4 goals, 3 assists. Riyad Mahrez, 4 goals and an assist. Gabriel Jesus hasn't really been used all that much. Hasn't been effective in his 7 appearances. 2 goals and an assist. Phil Foden and Ferran Torres has shown flashes of brilliance. 2 goals and 1 assist for Torres. 3 goals, 2 assists for Foden. Ruben Diaz has been, a huge help in that back line with guys like Ack and Laporte not really, being used all that much and not really showing much in their time on the team. I mean, Ack has shown some things, but Laporte is clearly still, having lingering issues from his injury from last year. Sergio Aguero, I mean, at 32 years old, it's possible that Guardiola is still just, kind of holding him off until he really needs him late in the season. But he's only got 5 appearances under his belt. He could be on his way out. But, I mean, I don't understand why he would be. I mean, I don't really think they have a pure number 9. And I think that's exactly what this team needs, is they've been struggling on the offensive end. And it's very opposite. They're playing great defensively. They have the best defensive team in the entire Premier League. But their offense has been very weak. Only 24 goals scored, while they've only allowed 13 goals. It's really weird, but that's just the way it's been so far this season. And a lot of that has to do with Ederson, one of the best sweeper keepers in the world. He's got a 750 save percentage with 7 clean sheets in his 14 appearances. And he's been very solid, but he's also got a great back line in front of him. So just overall, this team is so talented, so deep. I mean, Bernardo Silva, João Cancelo, Kyle Walker, Rodri has been great for them. Ilkay Gundogan, all of them give them a lot of depth. And, Fernandinho as well. But if they can just get some of those guys that, that haven't really been playing at the top of their, that at what you would expect. But it's just like, in my opinion, it's more Sterling, Gabriel Jesus, Bernardo Silva. They need more from those guys offensively. De Bruyne can't do it on his own. And they've been struggling this year on the offensive end, so they need more help there. At number 2, we have Manchester United. And, I mean, they have been playing like the hottest team in the league right now. Solskjaer has them, clicking on all cylinders. And a lot of that has to do with the talisman in the middle, Bruno Fernandes. Just continues to be one of the best players in the entire league with 11 goals and 7 assists in his 16 appearances. Marcus Rashford is coming into his own. I mean, he did last season, but he just continues to take those, necessary steps into stardom with 7 goals and 4 assists in his 16 appearances. You see David De Gea has stepped up in a big way and is kind of answered to those, all that chirping in the background with Dean Henderson coming in, possibly looking to take his spot. He said, no way, I'm still one of the best goalkeepers in the world, and he has got a stranglehold on that spot. The back line leaves a little bit to be desired. Harry Maguire has been, still... It's tough with Harry Maguire, man. I mean, he's had some good games and he has some bad games, and it's like there's no consistency with him. Same thing with Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Luke Shaw. That is certainly an area where they can improve. But I mean, I like Wan-Bissaka as a defender. He doesn't do much on the offensive end, close to nothing really, and you need to see more from him there. The midfield is where it gets confusing. I mean, Paul Pogba gets used, he's been used consistently now, but he's in a lot of transfer rumors. He's been told that, he's pretty much one foot out the door, but he's still getting used because he's obviously a big talent. You got McTominay there getting used, got 2 goals and an assist in his 14 appearances. Fred, kind of calms the midfield, but it's not the answer there. I like Donny van de Beek, but he's not being used as much. He's only got 10 appearances, 2 starts. Edison Cavani, I feel, can be a huge piece for them because I think Marcus Rashford is best on the wing. They don't have a pure number 9. I do not like Anthony Martial in that number 9 spot. He had 20-plus goals last season, but he's kind of regressed this year with 2 goals and 3 assists. Edison Cavani is that answer. And they loved what they've seen from him so far. In his 9 appearances, 2 starts, he's got 3 goals and 2 assists. Obviously he hasn't played consistent football in over a year. So obviously he's getting his legs under him, and if he can be that number 9 for them, it would be huge. But I do think they need to upgrade that back line. At that number 1, it's the only team that could be there, Liverpool. They're kind of on a little bit of a inconsistent run right now, but they're still one of the top teams in the entire Premier League. They're still the top team in the Premier League and easily the most stacked. I mean, you got Andrew Robertson, Roberto Firmino, Jorginho, Wijnaldum, Mohamed Salah, Sadio Mane, Fabinho, Alisson, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Jordan Henderson. I mean, the list goes on and on. I haven't even mentioned Virgil van Dijk, the best defender in the entire world. Obviously, they're missing what he brings to that back line. They're very lucky that Fabinho is as versatile as he is. He can play defensive midfielding spot, but he can also move back into the back line, and that's been their, what they've been using so far. It certainly helps when your only other options are guys like Joel Matip and Joe Gomez. They certainly need Virgil van Dijk back if they want to reach their full potential. But the fact that they're still able to hold on to that number 1 spot is incredible. And a lot of that has to do with Mohamed Salah, 13 goals, 3 assists. Sadio Mane also helping out with 6 goals and 2 assists. And of course, their number 9, Firmino, with 5 goals and 3 assists. And then, of course, I can't forget Andrew Robertson. A lot of the talk is always Alexander-Arnold, as of course. I mean, and it's for good reason. He set back-to-back records in assists as a defender the past 2 seasons. He hasn't had that same effect this season, but Andrew Robertson has taken that role with 1 goal and 5 assists in his 17 appearances. Has been huge for them, and just overall, even with them getting Alisson back, he was injured for a while. This team is just so stacked. It's hard to really pinpoint where their weakness is. I mean, obviously at the moment it's in their back line, but they still have a very solid defense. I mean they've allowed 21 goals in 17 games. So obviously that's probably their weakness, but their offense is easily the best in the entire league. And obviously that has to do with Salah, Mane, and Firmino, and those fullbacks that can cross in and just make so many plays for their teammates. And just overall, this team is just so incredible. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment, or for the show. I hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, thank you for listening to the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you and have a great night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.